Disclaimer, this video contains spoilers for Call of Duty World at War, Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered, or just Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and a bit of Infinite Warfare. Also, I think I talked about Cold War at some point in the video. Don't know if I spoiled it or not, but you probably would want to play that. So if you want these games spoiled for you, if you don't want these games spoiled for you, play them before you watch this video. And also, I'd like to mention these aren't reviews of these games. These are just sort of general overviews of the campaigns, but I'm not trying to grade them or rate them in any way, shape, or form. These are just my opinions and thoughts I'd like to express. If you're looking to see these games actually reviewed, there's actual people who do that. I'm not one of those people. I cannot review games that easily. So, yeah, these aren't reviews, these are just general overviews of these campaigns. Also, the majority of the gameplay clips here won't be mine. Some of them will be, but most of them are just going to be taken from the internet. If I do take a clip from the internet, I will give credit of the original creator in the corner of each clip. So, yeah. So recently I felt like playing some shooter games, just some basic, not really heavy storage shooter games. Games that are shooter first and story second. I thought, what better way to do that than just to go back and play Call of Duty? And how I did this was basically just took a bunch of random campaigns. There's no specific order for these, no specific reason why I chose them. I chose a few of them because I haven't played them before, but for the most part, yeah, I just went and played a bunch of Call of Duty campaigns. Those games are World at War, Black Ops 1, Advanced Warfare, Modern Warfare 3, no, Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, Campaign Remastered, and Black Ops 3. And Black Ops 2, if I didn't mention that. And I will try and play the original Modern Warfare Remastered, because it's just pretty much, well, I wanted, okay, I've been having technical difficulties with Modern Warfare Remastered on PC, so I don't know how that's going to work out. As of recording this first part of the video, I've only completed, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 3, and Advanced Warfare. Or the order I completed in was Black Ops 1, Advanced Warfare, and Black Ops 3. Why I chose Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3, I don't know. It just felt like choosing them. And yeah, I'm just going to be talking about these in the order that I completed them. Yeah, there's no specific reason why I chose this odd choice of games. I just chose it. Mainly because a lot of these games, a lot of these campaigns, I never actually played them to begin with. So that's the main reason why I went back and played them. And I don't know why, I just felt like playing Call of Duty in a nutshell. So let's start with Black Ops, because that's the first one I completed. And this one I actually decided to add a graphics mod for. I made a reshade preset for it, which I do plan on making a separate video about. But as of now, I'm just gonna talk about the game itself. Now, Black Ops 1, of course, is the obvious true successor to World at War. I'm sure all the Call of Duty games are successors of each other. Black Ops 1 is the truest sequel to World at War. Mainly because the time period it takes place, and only takes place about 20 years or so after. Also because of the fact that, I mean, you have Reznov in it, and Dmitry in it, sort of, you know. And, yeah, all in all, I liked the game. I liked its shooting, was very fun. The graphics mods increased its fidelity a bit, I suppose. Yeah, no, they increased the fidelity, and I liked the story overall. It was a very good, I guess, gritty game, I'd say. The whole story is, again, just very well done. And I like this. There's a lot of cool plot twists, sort of. Not exactly, but I guess with Reznov and Hudson, those would be twists. My only complaint actually is with Reznov and Dmitry. I really just wish they left them out of it. I really didn't like the fact they just killed him off right then and there. And honestly, they don't even quite feel like the characters. Obviously, Dmitry's now voiced, that changed a lot of things. But mostly, the way you look at Reznov in World at War, I feel is much different from how you look at him in Black Ops. It's just the way it is, I suppose. There's no actual explanation for it. But I personally just wish they left Reznov and his squad and Dmitry and out of it. They didn't kill him off. They shoot a bunch of different Russian soldiers. But it's nice to know that they were brought back into the series. Sort of, again, Reznov was only truly there for one level. I mean, he was technically there throughout the game, but he was really he was an hallucination. You know, he wasn't actually there. He never actually escaped Fort Kuta. So that's, I guess, my only complaint. I just wish they left him out and just gave them their own happy ending, or have the player imagine their own happy ending for him. But I enjoyed it nonetheless, and again, it's kind of surprising that this is, I guess a 10-year-old or 11-year-old game now, and I still only played the campaign until recently. I've made it pretty far in there before, But yeah, I made it pretty far in the campaign before, but I never actually completed the full thing. And I already had like bits of it spoiled here and there, but I never really. I don't know. Like when I was going back and playing it recently, I didn't actually care that it was spoiled. I just thought, all right, it's whatever. But all in all, enjoyed Black Ops 1, and yeah, I generally don't have that much to say about it. A lot of stuff I said has already been said. A lot of the compliments I'm giving it. But the only thing I really want to voice is just my complaints about it. Again, with the story. I like the story, I just wish I just wish Reznov and Dimitri weren't killed off in it. And I guess live on, and I don't know. Let's talk about Advanced Warfare now. Now, Advanced Warfare, again, you've already heard a lot about this game, of course. It's 6 years old now, it's gonna come up on 7. I'm assuming if it was released in November. I don't actually remember, but I'm assuming it was released in November, so it's gonna come up on 7 years old. That's a 7-year-old game soon. Now, why did I play this one? I really don't know. Did I think the story is necessarily bad? Not really, it just felt really predictable. Again, I already had Advanced Warfare partly spoiled, but I feel like even if it wasn't spoiled, it'd still be a little predictable. The shooting and the gunplay I thought was fine. Seeing as the only advanced movement is really jetpacks, so aside from that, it plays mostly like most other games, most other of the older Call of Duty games without all the advanced movement, aside from the fact that you move very, very fast. I've noticed that when you sprint. But I didn't mind the shooting or the gunplay. The story, I honestly wish that, I wish the story was different. I wish that, the story was instead taking place entirely in Korea. Again, in the beginning, North Korea was invading Seoul, so I thought it'd be better if it took place in South Korea. Basically, you're just dropped into the city. This is my idea for the better plot. You're just dropped into the city with a squad. Obviously, you'd have a few more guys than just Cormac. You have the original squad, Jackson, Cormac, and Will, along with like 2 more people. I guess this is where Gideon and Joker would come in or something like that. And essentially just remove Kevin Spacey and Iona out of it. I guess Nox, you could add him to the group as well, as into the squad. You're dropped in there with the squad, and you're sent there to go fight off the North Koreans any way possible. And over time, the situation gets worse and worse. At the end, you're forced to bug out and leave. And, yeah. You end up losing the fight, or maybe winning, I don't know. I just wish it was more, again, like what I said. It just takes place entirely in Korea, South Korea, with you moving through different environments. It's just you and your squad. You're just amongst a big group of soldiers. You're just another soldier fighting in the wars. Nothing special about you. And you're not some super. Well, you are technically super advanced soldier, but so is everyone else. You don't really necessarily feel like a main character. There is a main character, but you don't necessarily feel like it. You just feel like another soldier in this huge conflict going on. You know, you're just as important as the guy next to you. I thought that would have made a better story for this game. And also, I looked up. I was watching Watch Mojo's saddest Call of Duty deaths, you know, and one of them's Will Irons, right? And he dies. When I saw his death, I thought, oh, okay, this must be like the 7th level of Advanced Warfare. Don't know why I chose 7th. The point is, I thought it was much later on than it was. This is what makes it sad. You got to know this guy, he dies off due to mechanical error. No, it was the 1st level. You didn't get to know him at all. You didn't fall in love with him. You didn't fight through hell with him. You know, he just wasn't around for long enough for it to be deemed sad. You can't just say a character is the main character's best friend and automatically have the player be attached to that character. It's not quite how it works. You have to spend time with him, get to know him, and just sort of over time, again, fall in love with the character. Couldn't do that with Will because again, he was only there for 1 level. And I guess it sort of sets off the whole premise, but I feel like my premise may have worked better. I like the whole idea of North Korea invading Seoul, but it only lasted, again, 1 level. The rest of it is you're with Atlas, and then fighting against Atlas with, Sentinel. So, that's why I wasn't done to the plot. Again, this plot wouldn't have Kevin Spacey or Iona in it. And, yeah. Also, Advanced Warfare, it literally just ends, okay? Throughout the game, in every beginning cutscene, Mitchell, he talks about basically just as if he's he talks before every mission, of course, in a cutscene, but he's talking in terms of past tense, as if he's in the future, this happened in the past. He's telling a story, essentially. But at the end, they just walk off and the game ends. That's it. They killed Kevin Spacey, and then they don't even make it out of the building. They just walk away from the platform he's on, then credits roll. Essentially hinting that there was probably supposed to be a sequel, considering how Advanced Warfare turned out, and how the whole opinions, basically seeing how people's opinions are now on Advanced Exo movement and whatnot, they probably felt, nah, we're not gonna make another sequel. But I'm pretty sure that ending was, yeah, hinting, at the time they were planning to make a sequel to it. Of course, that's not the case, as this is, again, a 6-year-old game coming up on 7 years old. We would have heard something about a sequel by now, if it was in development. That never happened. Alright, next we have Black Ops 3. Now this is such a weird game to talk about, because it, again, feels nothing like, not really again, but it feels nothing like Black Ops 1 or 2. The campaigns don't even feel similar to Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare, which were the games that came before and after it. Okay, you ever see those pictures online of there's a video online called Places That Take You to an Alternate Reality, okay? Or basically, you'll find online these compilations of just these weird rooms with certain artifacts about them that just make them weird, and it's just the whole thing is weird. They don't fit in with the rest of the world and how it looks. Okay, again, this is very subjective, but this is the best way I can describe it. They don't fit in. These rooms you'll see in these videos don't fit in. There's something abnormal about them. That's how I describe Black Ops 3. If all of the other Call of Duty games were the rest of the world, Black Ops 3 is those weird rooms that you just find, subliminal spaces, or places you've seen in your dreams, or places that take you to an alternate reality. That's what Black Ops 3 is to, it feels like the entire Call of Duty series, not just the Black Ops series. There's really only about 6 main characters, and 2 regional-based side characters, or maybe 3 regional-based side characters, I don't know, because you have the guy in Egypt that you help along, that you help fight with, and then you have the, woman that you go up against in Shanghai. I think it was Shanghai. Not quite sure. Again, and also I just have so much to say about this. I don't even know where to start. But in total, you have, I guess, 6 actual main characters that are the most important to the plot. And it's weird because there's no major conflict going on. And you aren't the subject. Well, there are technically major conflicts, but you aren't sort of the subject of these conflicts. And in all the other Call of Duty games, that's always the U.S. is at war with somebody else. Unless you're playing the classic games where it's you know, other countries against the Axis. But for the most part, these days it's usually just the U.S. against some other country, whether it be Russia or something else. And that's mostly what it revolves around. This game wasn't like that. There were conflicts going on, but they weren't US-based. You were just sort of fighting in other countries, in other worldly conflicts. The levels, the way they're structured, maybe not necessarily the way they're structured, just, I don't know, the levels just don't feel, the whole game itself just doesn't feel like the Call of Duty games. Again, it feels like this sort of outer world experience. I don't know how to explain it. It's just so different. You have to play Advanced Warfare and then play a bit of Infinite Warfare and then play a bit of Black Ops 3 to understand what I'm saying. It's different, not in a good way, but in a bad and weird way. It's so hard to explain. There's no overranking general either. It's just you guys. It's essentially you, Hendricks, Taylor, Diaz, Moretti, and Hall. I guess Kane is the main character as well. I actually forgot about her. There's technically 7 main characters, aside from, yeah, 7 main characters, because Kane isn't introduced until, like, I think the 3rd or 4th level. But, yeah, story goes, you know, there's, you lose your arm, and I think you're either both of your arms or one of your arms and your legs. I think both of your arms. And Taylor and his group teach you, or tell you about this DNI stuff that essentially gives you enhanced combat abilities, I suppose, in a nutshell. And then they go on this mission, and then they become corrupted by this virus named Corvus that sort of spreads to you, but you kill it before it can do any damage to you. I think that's how the plot goes. Again, I wasn't really too into the plot itself. I was more so confused about it. But it's so hard to explain how different this Call of Duty game is. Now, I already had some spoilers for it. I think about a year ago or so, I watched Ackman's review on it, saying he said it was very mediocre. And the only thing I remember about the plot is you fight German soldiers, then you fight Nazi zombies, and then I remember the Ackman saying something about helping the player find some closure in life. And I immediately stitched together the fact that maybe the player's been dead this whole time, and this way just finds some closure in life, or it dies thinking it wasn't all for waste. But no, it's not what happens at the end, as it turns out it was all real. So, yeah, essentially I was under the assumption that this wasn't real at all. Because it didn't feel real. The way the levels were, the locations they took place in, the way the certain structures were, they didn't quite feel like they were real, and actually there. It's very hard to explain, you just have to play Advanced Warfare to know how oddly different Black Ops 3 is. I just want to make a point of that out. But, again, I just don't know how to describe it. But yeah, at the end though, the player wasn't even dead the whole time. He, I guess gets merged with Taylor or something? I generally don't know. Again, I barely remember it, I barely saw understood what I was seeing. But at the end, you go outside of you're in this building at the very end, and you go and defeat the virus. And there's this huge war going on. You kill Hendrix. Hendrix was leading this attack on America or something like that. Again, wasn't following along as I should have. Not that it was really not that it would have been a good choice to follow along exactly, but yeah. So you go outside the building, and the soldier says, "What's your name?" And the player doesn't even have a name. They just say, "Oh, you," or "You got my back," or something like that. They don't actually refer to the player's name, but in subtitles, the player's name is player. So they ask him. They say, "Hey, what's your name?" He says Taylor. Essentially, I guess he combined him with Taylor or something. Taylor has control of him. I don't know. I don't understand it at all. But yeah. Again, the plot was just the whole game itself was just feels so much more different. I don't know how to explain it, other than it's just this sort of alternate reality version, or this sort of just this odd one out that's really unnecessarily odd. And again, I think this game was also leading towards a sequel, seeing how it ended, seeing the reviews it got, assuming it got pretty negative reviews. Well, they did make a sequel, which was Black Ops 4, but had nothing to do with the series. It had a campaign, but if you look at a Call of Duty timeline, the campaign actually technically had a campaign, with a campaign which is cutscenes. If you look at a Call of Duty timeline, you can actually see that the campaign of Black Ops 4, again, quote-unquote campaign, it goes before Black Ops 3. So, again, doesn't really add on to the plot or help it much. Not to mention, Black Ops 4, even then, had nothing to do with the Black Ops series. The whole reason why the series is called Black Ops is because you're doing, in this series, Black Ops operations, Black Operations. You know, that's what the original story was about. It's sort of straight off of that more and more. Don't know if you consider the missions in Black Ops 3 Black Operations, but yeah. Black Ops 4 is just called Black Ops 4 for the sake of Black Ops 4. They forgot why they called it Black Ops. And yeah, because the whole reason, again, you can't make a multiplayer mode out of Black Operations. I mean, you can, but it's not going to be like the actual thing. Black Ops 1 is generally regarded as really good because it simulated what Black Operations were like. Of course, it's not exact, because that's to make it sort of intertwined with the story, but it sort of gives you an idea of what Black Operations would look like. And Black Ops 2, I think, did that, but then sort of started to stray a little more from that. Black Ops 3, a lot more, and then Black Ops 4 wasn't even about Black Ops at all. They could have called it fucking, Super Warfare or something. Essentially would have the same impact. It being Black Ops 4 meant nothing for it. And it's a shame that it's actually part of the Black Ops series, which is what I think is a genuinely good series. Again, technically started at World at War, or World at War Final Fronts, which is, again, World at War's prequel. But, yeah, it's just, you know, I have my opinions on Black Ops 3. Black Ops 4 is much worse. And I don't know what else to say other than that. But back to Black Ops 3. Again, it's just this weird game out of this whole... I don't know how to describe it. Other than just play Advanced Warfare, play a few levels from that, and then play, what is it? Play Infinite Warfare for a bit, then play Black Ops 3, and you'll see just how different and weird the story is, and also how different and weird the levels are. You know, again, the US isn't involved in a major conflict in this one, I guess until up at the end, or maybe even up at the beginning, but yeah, it's just you and your buddies fighting off enemies. There's no major conflict, there's no allied soldiers, and not really allied, but there's no friendly soldiers that are from the US. There's friendly soldiers in the game that aren't the main ones, but those aren't US troops, I guess unless you're referring to the end or the beginning of the game. And those did feel more like Call of Duty missions, but they still felt straight off. And it's just, again, you just have to play the game, and you have to play the other Call of Duties to know what I mean by this. Advanced Warfare feels more in common with Black Ops 1 than Black Ops 3 does, I kid you not. Also, Black Ops 3 really didn't have too much to do with Black Ops 1 or 2, other than the fact that at the end there's the gas Nova 6, and Raul Menendez, you know, the antagonist of Black Ops 2, is referred to in the game. But I think Black Ops 3 takes place, like, in 2070, as opposed to Black Ops 2 taking place in 2025, as I think it does. But I can't tell you for sure. So, as of recording this now, I've only played through these 3, like I said before, I think I said it before, but I'm now going to try and, I think next I'm going to be completing Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered. It turns out it's only $20, I didn't actually know that, I thought it was being charged for like 30 or 40. I'm going to go play that, because I never played the original Modern Warfare 2. I played Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 1, I know all the major spoilers of Modern Warfare 2, how it ends, Corporal Shepard betraying you, and all that, but I don't actually know how it leads up to that, or any of that other stuff. So, yeah, I figured I'll just play that, because again, I never played it before. But, yeah, I'm already thinking about stuff to talk about with it, but I'm already thinking of stuff to talk about it, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. But I'm actually going to save that for when I do speak about it, and that may be in a couple days or so? I'm not quite sure, because again, I'm only like, I think I'm just about to be halfway through it. Maybe I am halfway through it. I don't really know. But yeah, so we will see. I will speak about that. Yeah, there's no real assortment to these Call of Duty campaigns. Just random games I played, and that's all I really have to say about it. Now, yes, I think the order's gonna be like this: Modern Warfare Remastered, no, Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered, then Black Ops 2, and then World at War. I plan on ending with World at War just because it's my favorite out of this whole bunch. But yeah, again, I want to squeeze in Modern Warfare Remastered, but that's having technical issues and always has on PC. Really, it was well, not quite. Just it's been having GPU errors, even though I just got a brand new GPU. It's not necessarily brand new by now, but the point is, I have a better GPU than I did earlier, and it seemed to work better on my 960 almost than this. So we'll see what happens. We'll see how it turns out. If I can squeeze it in, I'll play it and talk about that as well. So I just finished actually, Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered. And like Black Ops 3, I have quite a bit to say about it, more than I usually would with the other games throughout this list. And actually, yeah, I ended up completing it literally one day after I filmed the first segment of this video. Honestly thought it would take me a little longer, but I guess I was farther along than I thought. So, when Modern Warfare, okay, I played the original Modern Warfare, 1. I played Modern Warfare Remastered, really. And what I liked about it the most was that, even though it was a modern game, it still sort of kept the, tempo and pacing of the older Call of Duty games, like the World War II ones. They all had this sort of tempo and pace to them that was really kind of low and mellow and sort of moody. It wasn't really exactly this upbeat, action-packed game. It was, the scenarios were realistic, and I'll get into what I mean in a bit. But for now, I love Modern Warfare 1 because even though it was modern, it still kept the same pacing and tempo. Modern Warfare 2, when it was first released, and this is the original I'm talking about, when it was first released, it received maybe not the most flack in the world, but received enough flack to make this not worth it. People gave it flack because it essentially turned Call of Duty into this sort of action Hollywood blockbuster style of campaign. It was filled with these actiony set pieces, and it was really just loud and bombastic, maybe not all the time, but loud enough to make a difference. And it essentially just dropped the whole tone that the older games brought on, and did so well. And in losing that, it lost the whole tempo and essentially introduced that whole style for future Call of Duty games. Now, albeit recently they've sort of strayed away from this, and at least with Black Ops Cold War they somewhat did, further than other titles. And Modern Warfare, the one that just came out, the 2019 one, maybe it didn't just come out, but in the 2019 one, I actually haven't played that yet, but from what I've seen, from what I can tell about the story, it sort of follows a pacing similar to Modern Warfare 1's. Don't quite know for sure, I never played it. Hopefully I'll get to that soon. But yeah, so when it came out, again, just to reiterate, it received a lot of flack for being just too over the top and bombastic, and that essentially was my problem with it as well. See, in Modern Warfare 1, these were still realistic war scenarios. Obviously, the shooting isn't realistic, but the scenarios that happen, aside from all the nuking, of course, those are pretty much realistic scenarios, and they sort of played out how they would. Modern Warfare 2 ditched most of that, and again, had this completely different style of campaign. And I just can't express that enough. That's the main reason why I didn't quite like the story as much. I like the game, I think Modern Warfare 2 is a good game, and its story was good, and whatnot, and of course the shooting was good, because it's literally the same as Modern Warfare's, but just the style and tempo of the story, I wish it would have been kept the same. The story itself, let's also talk about that, so... again, I'm assuming you already know the story well enough to where you can pretty much summarize it within like a few sentences. So the whole thing with US and Russia actually going to war doesn't, it's very flawed as you can imagine. My main problem is that, when they shot, okay, here's the thing, so I don't know if this happened in the original Modern Warfare, but two of my teammates, in the original Modern Warfare 2, but in the mission No Russian, as I was going along with my teammates, two of them actually died. Okay, and at the end Makarov shoots you, which again turns the, causes the US to go into war with Russia. But what about my other two teammates who died? Because again, for those of you who don't know, the whole reason why the US went to war with Russia is because Makarov shoots you at the end, and the US thinks it's they're American terrorists who shot up the airport. Now, essentially, I had two teammates who died. Again, I don't know if this happens in the original game, but it happened here. So you'd think if they found those guys, they found two Russian guys and one American guy, wouldn't there be a little more to this than just having it be all Americans? And not only that, even if there only was one dead American guy, you'd think they would have done their research and asked, hey, what's going on here? And the US probably would have told them what they're trying to do. They're trying to stop Makarov, you know? And also, I think if the Russia did start attacking the US and start doing full-scale attacks, I think a few other countries would be involved because of, certain treaties and certain, I guess, I don't know what the word is, but through certain events, I feel like other countries would be involved as well. It wouldn't just be US and Russia, and essentially would probably end up being a World War III. So, yeah, that's the only part I really, didn't understand too well, is that, if the US did send a soldier to stop a terrorist, and they did a whole attack, and essentially the situation that in No Russian played out, you'd think, again, they would have just done their research, and the whole game would have been different. You know, it wouldn't have, Russia probably wouldn't have attacked the US, instead, again, gone after Makarov like they should have just been doing in the first place. And they were, but they should have just kept doing that. Now, I knew all the major spoilers, that, again, Makarov shoots you, Shepard shoots you, and, how it ends, pretty much. I knew all of that. But everything else in between, a lot of the missions in between, pretty much all of them, actually, I actually had no clue what was happening, so it was, I guess, a surprise enough. So, yeah, it wasn't completely spoiled for me. Because, again, it's pretty easy to get that game spoiled for you. It's, I think, 12, it's gonna come up on 12 years old by now, I believe, because it came out in 2009, it's 2021. So yeah, around November-ish, I'm assuming if that's when it was released, that's when, yeah, it's gonna be 12 years old soon. So again, to reiterate, I like Modern Warfare 2, but at the end of the day, I prefer these sort of, moody and sort of mellow tempo that Modern Warfare brought on, along with its realistic scenarios. And again, I don't know if this happens in 2019 Modern Warfare, so hopefully we do check that out. It will bring on that sort of thing, because again, from what I've seen, it looks like that, but who knows for sure. Now, also, actually, one last thing about the story. What happened to, Sergeant Foley and, Lieutenant Dunn? In Modern Warfare 3, they're just gone, you have a bunch of new guys, but, yeah, it doesn't really, make much sense at all. And, yeah, just, I don't know, what happened to them? You'd think they would be sent over, I guess, to wherever the, Russians were attacking next, but you don't hear from them at all, at least not as far as I know. The last time I played Modern Warfare 3 was 2018, in terms of campaign, of course, so I don't know if they are referred to, but if they were, I did not know, and I did not, or don't remember. So I don't know if that was the case or not. Also, one last thing, one of the reasons why I like the original Modern Warfare as well is because, you weren't playing as some super soldier with enhanced capabilities. Again, in Modern Warfare 2, you weren't really playing as a super soldier either, but you felt like you were sort of at the center of everything, in a sort of way. Like, you felt like you were a super soldier without all the super soldier equipment. For instance, in, Advanced Warfare, or Black Ops 3, I suppose, you're like the hero of this whole thing going on. There's only like one of you. It's hard to explain how I feel, but in, again, the World War II Call of Duty games, aside from World War II, of course, but in the World War II Call of Duty games and Modern Warfare, you were just another soldier fighting in this huge conflict of just fighting this huge conflict. You didn't have any special power that made you above everyone else. You know, you're just a guy with a gun. Not really necessarily a guy with a gun, but you're just as important as the guy next to you. Modern Warfare 2 didn't quite feel like this. Again, you aren't some super soldier or anything like that, but it still didn't quite feel like you're just, I guess, just a small cog in the whole thing. And Modern Warfare 1, again, really establishes that well. Not this is talking about the SAS missions only, but it really establishes that well with, especially at the beginning when you're at that, when you're at the, base, going through training and whatnot. Again, you can tell, you can just see that you're just another guy in this huge big swarm of SAS. So that's pretty much my opinion on Modern Warfare 2. Next, you should hear me talk about Black Ops 2 and then World at War, unless I can squeeze in Modern Warfare 1. So, now I just beat Black Ops 2, and, yeah, my thoughts on it. So to start, I liked it a lot. I felt it was pretty good. It actually, no, I enjoyed it a lot. The characters were great, and it was nice that they added in, Alex and Harper and Admiral Briggs and everyone else in the future, and, yeah, but it actually makes me more pissed off at Black Ops 3, because at the end, it still had nothing to do with the story. Raul Menendez is only mentioned once, and even though he's dead, because I got the canon, well, I'll talk a bit about that later, but he's only mentioned once. None of the characters from the game are actually mentioned other than him. At the end, they just throw in Nova 6 at the end of Black Ops 3. Just out of nowhere, they just bring it out. And, which is the gas from Black Ops 1, by the way. But, yeah, they just throw in Nova 6 at the end of Black Ops 3 out of nowhere, and it kills off Kane. So, essentially, it just made me more pissed at Black Ops 3 for having nothing to do with the story. I really would have liked to see a continuation of it in one way or another, but we never got that, which is really unfortunate. Now, when I went to Black Ops 2, I didn't know how many endings there actually were. I knew there were multiple endings and branching paths, but I didn't know how many there actually were. So, I knew how to, get either the good ending or the canon ending. I think this was the canon ending where, Menendez dies, and Mason lives, and Karma dies. I believe that's the canon one. I'm not quite sure, but I knew how to get that because I'd seen someone play the last level of Black Ops 2, and at the end I saw Harper was alive, I saw Mason was alive, so I figured, okay, if I just do everything to keep them alive, I would get that ending. And I did. Obviously, the guy at the end also killed Menendez, so he was dead, and yeah, I thought it actually would have been a little more difficult than that. I thought there would have been more to it, but no, it's as easy as just, I wouldn't really say easy, but you just have to, Farida has to die instead of Harper, and Mason has to get shot in the leg to, get the, what I believe is the canon ending. Now, I'm not sure how to, there's also a good ending, I think, where, I think Mason lives, and Karma lives, but Menendez dies. I'm not quite sure. But I think for that, you have to kill, Menendez. Or I think for that, you have to kill Harper, I mean. You have to, in the mission you're playing as Farid, you have to actually shoot Harper, I believe. I don't know how else to have gotten it. But, yeah. So I ended up getting what I believe was the canon ending. The only thing is, I don't know how this fits into the Black Ops, I don't know how Black Ops Cold War fits into this. It takes place in the 80s, right? But if Black Ops 2, if the canon ending, which I'm pretty sure takes place in the 70s and 2025, but I'm pretty sure if it's, the canon, if you get the canon ending in Black Ops 2, Woods talks about how he hasn't seen Mason for the past 30 or so years. So I'm wondering how did Black Ops Cold War happen? And also, Hudson, or Woods couldn't even walk after Black Ops 2. And also, Hudson lost his legs as well, I think just died. I'm pretty sure he just flat out died. So I don't know how Cold War fits into this, but it just does. And again, I don't know if it's even canon to the other story, to the rest of the story. I have no clue how it just ties into this all. I would have liked to see Weaver again. I thought Weaver was a good character from Black Ops 1, but we didn't quite see him. Actually, we didn't see him at all. And of course, Reznov was gone, which is really unfortunate. And I actually have a few questions also about the future. So in Modern Warfare 2 takes place in 2016. The US gets attacked by Russia, right? And this happens in Modern Warfare 3 as well. But in Black Ops 2, in 2025, it technically gets attacked again. I'd call the scale of the attack to be an actual attack, as opposed to just terrorism itself. I'd call it an actual attack. So it gets attacked twice in less than a decade. I'm sure it's 9 years, but still, even if it just was a decade, that's that's only 10 years apart from Modern Warfare. So I thought that was kind of odd how it gets attacked in about the next 10 years. Because, for those of you who don't know, again, I don't know if Cold War is actually canon to the Black Ops series. If it's not, this would make sense. But in Cold War, Zakhaev from Modern Warfare, you actually see him in the 80s when he's much younger. So that essentially would tie Modern Warfare to the Black Ops series. Again, I don't know how canon Cold War is, so I don't quite know for sure. But if this is the case, then it's just weird how the US just immediately got attacked 10 years later. Also, I feel the military advancements have really gone pretty far for a decade. You have full-on flying drones that just work by themselves and whatnot. Again, this takes place in 2025. It looks like most of this stuff would be in 2030, maybe 2033, as opposed to 2025. And considering how in 2016, in the Call of Duty universe, it's literally the same as our 2016, maybe a little bit different. It's just weird to see how that technology's advanced that much within the decade. I get it, it's a decade, but it's a lot of advancements, considering the fact that we have, or in Black Ops 2, there's drones and machines that just work and kill enemies by themselves. I think that's a little much. Then again, I don't exactly know how canon these are. I don't know if they're in the same universe or if they're not. I don't know how Cold War ties into this because, again, Woods lost his legs. Hudson died, and even if he didn't die, he also wouldn't be able to walk either. Mason wasn't seen until for 30 years, so I have no clue. Again, I'm fairly certain this takes place in the 70s and Cold War's in the 80s. If I'm correct. I could be wrong about the 70s thing though, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. So, yeah, I have a few questions but I guess all I can say it's a video game, so you can't really, I guess, dive too deep. I just feel the stretch is a little far when it comes to the advancements and the attacks on the US. I feel like it's a little much to be within the same decade. So, did I have any problems with this story? Not necessarily. Again, it just made me more mad at Black Ops 3 for not having anything to do with the Black Ops series. It feels like it was just tacked on there just because, and it feels like the things in the game were also just tacked on because. Again, they just added Nova 6 out of nowhere, from all the way back from the 60s, at the variant of Black Ops 3, which served no actual purpose. They literally could have had Kane shot, and it would still have the same effect. It's just tied in there. Considering the fact we probably won't get a sequel to Black Ops 3, which I think is kind of a good thing, again, just makes you hate Black Ops 3 that much more. I think Black Ops 2 is really the only futuristic campaign that I actually really loved, because it still felt like a Black Ops game. Albeit it's more bombastic, of course, than Black Ops 1, but it's still, again, it feels not really gimmicky, I'd say. It feels like it's made proper use of sort of future warfare. And about the tempo, actually, I do give it praise because it did sort of keep that same tempo that Black Ops 1 had, albeit maybe raised it up just a bit, but not in terms of Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2. It doesn't have the Modern Warfare, Black Ops 1 did not have the Modern Warfare tempo and style, like I talked about earlier. It just has sort of own style and sort of own tempo. That's sort of bombastic at times, sort of slow and quiet. So it ranges, but Black Ops 2, I feel, kept this up really nicely. Maybe just sped it up a bit more and made it just a little bit louder, but for the most part, I feel it's pretty transparent to Black Ops 1. This is the same with Cold War. Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 obviously speak for themselves. They're nothing like the first two games, or like Cold War either. But yeah, I just want to know, how does Cold War fit into this exactly? Is there something I missed in Cold War? Is something I'm not paying attention to here? I have no clue. But yeah, it just left me with a few more questions about Cold War and what is it? Yeah, just left me a few more questions about the Black Ops series in total. I also do really like it because again, about the tempo thing, Cold War sort of restored, or is sort of bringing back this tempo. You know, it's not really this super loud Hollywood type-esque game that we've seen in previous iterations, such as World War II and Infinite Warfare, and of course the aforementioned Black Ops 3. So I feel, yeah, if anything, it's more similar to Cold War, Black Ops 2 is, than in terms of gameplay, of course. Story is a little different, but in terms of gameplay and whatnot, and style and tempo, I feel it's more closer to Cold War than Black Ops 3, which further excludes Black Ops 3, just when you thought it couldn't even separate itself further. So, in the end, I did like this game a lot. I did like Black Ops 2 a lot. Just have a few questions that I just would want to know if they're ever answered somewhere along the line. But yeah, that's about it. Next, I have World at War, which technically is also another Black Ops game, but I like to also look at World at War in its own sort of perspective, because if you think of just solely World at War, it is a very sort of, I would say unique, but also just different game in terms of Black Ops. Again, it had that sort of tempo and style that Modern Warfare had, which I really liked, and that's seen sort of a lot in the older Call of Duty games, in the World War II ones, except for World War II. Except for Call of Duty World War II, that felt more like Modern Warfare, as in, it felt more like a future game than a classical game. So, again, I've already played World at War, but it's been a long time since I actually beat it, so hopefully when I do go back, it will be sort of refreshing, I suppose. Let's talk about Infinite Warfare. Okay, I tried to squeeze in Infinite Warfare. Basically, I decided to get a, it was cheaper to get a boxed copy of World at War than to digitally buy it for 20 bucks. Yes, I decided to cheap out and just go with the boxed copy. And it's supposed to come at March 5th, but it actually came 2 days early on the 3rd. So, yeah, I figured, alright, I guess I'll just try and finish Infinite Warfare by the 5th. Well, as it turns out, I didn't finish Infinite Warfare. I honestly got bored of it, and the reason is that it's not because of the story. The story may have its flaws. It's very straightforward and very, I guess you'd say, average. You know, bad guys attack America. Essentially, it's Earth, but it might as well just be America. Bad guys attack America. America fights back and wins. Main character dies in the process. Which, again, is something that can and can't, or sometimes may or may not happen in Call of Duty games. So, yeah, I was playing it, and I was fine with the gameplay itself, but the one thing I hated the most, the one thing I despised, was the Jackal missions. Not the Jackal, well, I don't know if they're called Jackals, but the missions where you're flying in those ships, I did not care for those. I got bored of those so quickly. I just wanted to play for the gameplay. Real, that was it. But, essentially, it plays like an Advanced Warfare 2.0. It feels like an Advanced Warfare 2.0. The reason why I don't say that about Black Ops 3 is because Black Ops 3, again, it was just so weird. I don't know how to describe it, other than the fact that you have to play Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare, and then play Black Ops 3, just to know how weird it is. It's just such a weird game. The vibe, I just don't know how to explain it, other than just go play it. If you pay attention, you'll know what I mean. But Infinite Warfare is essentially an Advanced Warfare 2.0, but at that point, it's like, if you want to play a game like Advanced Warfare, just play Advanced Warfare. I actually like that more than Infinite Warfare, believe it or not. Even if it wasn't really exactly memorable, I just prefer the shooting and gunplay to that. It's that much different just to make an impact. Yeah, I get it, it's very similar to Infinite Warfare's and Black Ops 3, but it's that much different to the point where I'd actually prefer Advanced Warfare. Most people wouldn't have a preference when it comes to these three games, and you just say, fuck it. Because they really all do play the same, but I think Advanced, they play just different enough to sort of warrant an actual preference. So I choose Advanced Warfare, because I prefer them all. Again, this is literally just Advanced Warfare without the plot twist. Because Advanced Warfare you end up fighting for Atlas, or you're fighting for Atlas in the beginning, and you end up fighting for the US again. This might as well be the same thing, except without the plot twist. It's very straightforward, like Advanced Warfare. And yeah, even if Advanced Warfare's twist wasn't that much of a twist, even was predictable, essentially was supposed to come off as a plot twist. This is literally that, but without the twist. Unless there is a twist, I just didn't make it to that. Anyways, so I'm trudging along through Infinite Warfare, and it actually isn't going that bad. Again, the gunplay I was fine with. I just do prefer Advanced Warfare's, but the gunplay I found was solid enough. Until one point of the game, you're basically in this sort of hub area like you are with Black Ops 3, and have to choose which mission you want to do. The thing is that you can't just do main story missions. There's all these Jackal Strikes and side missions that you have to do to progress the story. Again, I hate Jackal Strikes. I think they're Jackal Strikes. If I'm correct, you're just in the plane the whole time. And honestly, I just got sick of these. I do not care for vehicle combat in Call of Duty games, unless it's solid. At least in this sort of era of Call of Duty games. Later ones, I found it alright. Well, actually, I don't know, because it's really only in multiplayer. But this stage of, at the time, vehicle combat in Call of Duty games was very just not good. It's very just, I don't know, it's just very generic. It feels more generic than Call of Duty already is. And considering the fact that you're really the only one, I think, who's doing any damage. I think the other planes, the other jets or whatever, just flying around in the background. And sure, Advanced Warfare had some vehicle combat, but there wasn't as much of it, not nearly as much, and it just felt more, well, first of all, it was more linear, so usually it was easier to progress through, and second of all, it just was better, a bit better. Not really. Honestly, I could go without the flying sections of Advanced Warfare, but at least those were linear. This way you're progressing a lot easier. Infinite Warfare, you have to run around, you have to fly around, so you find the enemies and do all this other stuff. I could not do that. And I had to do like 5 of these Jackal missions before I could progress. Unless there's another thing coming along, but, unless there's a story mission that comes along in between, I feel like at the end of the day I would have had to complete all of them just to complete the game. I already pretty much know how the game ended. Reyes dies, I'm pretty sure Ethan dies as well, and you defeat the SDF. This sort of era of COD games, this sort of era of COD was fairly predictable. It was pretty predictable at Advanced Warfare. You're gonna kill Kevin Spacey, one way or another, and that in this you would beat the SDF. Black Ops 3, it's not predictable because you have no idea what the fuck is happening. Like, a bunch of different things are happening. I barely even knew what the hell I was trying to do. There's no overarching conflict. I just knew at the end we were trying to kill Taylor, which we sort of did, I don't even know. But Black Ops 3 did not intrigue me enough to go look up an explanation for the ending, even if there's billions of them out there. But back to Infinite Warfare, at the end of the day, it just felt like an Advanced Warfare 2.0. And if I want to play a game like Advanced Warfare, I would just play Advanced Warfare. It really, again, I don't know what else to say about it, other than that, it's just a worse version of Advanced Warfare. I wouldn't exactly say it's the worst Call of Duty, but it's just, I'd rather play Advanced Warfare, I don't know what else to say other than that. Yeah, this game got a lot of hate when it came out, and albeit, a lot of it was because of the fact that we were just sick of it, and a lot of the hate didn't stem from the game itself, it just stemmed from the factor that, people were just sick of this advanced exo movement and whatnot. And albeit you're not wearing exosuits, but you might as well have exosuits. It's the same exact thing. So, yeah, people were getting sick of this. That's why this game generally did get a lot of hate. But, I don't know if the game was inherently actually that bad. I used to hate this game when it came out. I don't know why. I never tried it. And yeah, and also it was competing with Battlefield 1 at the time, and we all know how that went out. So, yeah, but at the end of the day, this game for me was just alright. It was alright, but honestly, again, I've said this a lot, I'm gonna say it again, I don't see much of a reason to play this if nowadays, because you already have Advanced Warfare. If you want to play a better game, or a game with exo movement, just play that. I really honestly don't, I can't exactly recommend this game, unless you're drawn to the story. If you're playing it more so for the story, fine, but Call of Duty games really aren't they're shooting first, and they put shooting above all other things, so it's obviously shooting first, and then whatever second. I don't even know if it's story second, story might be third. So, yeah, that's why people generally don't play Call of Duty for the stories. Unless it's like been an ongoing, hyped up series, like the Black Ops games. Like you'd play that for the story, but something like Infinite Warfare is more gameplay reliant than story reliant. So yeah, in the end of Infinite Warfare, or in the end, Infinite Warfare just felt like Mafia 3, where it just got too boring. And you know what? To give it credit, it had everything else pretty much down, albeit the story felt generic, but it could have worked. The characters were good, the story was decent, it would have worked if it just... I would have been playing it, I would have played through it if it just was literally just, the progression was literally like Advanced Warfare's, where you just played the level after that level, onto the next level. There weren't these in-between sort of side missions that you had to do. This was the problem with Mafia 3, is that its progression, it didn't feel like you were going anywhere, and it didn't feel like you were going anywhere, and I really just wanted the, sort of Mafia 2 and Mafia 1 based progression system. And, again, to be fair, Mafia 3 had everything else down. The characters were great, the story was great, albeit it, well, actually, Mafia 3, I wanted to, the other Mafia games feel like they're about the Mafia. Mafia 3 feels more so, it's like more so about Lincoln Clay, as opposed to the Black Mob. Feels like it's more so Lincoln Clay first, Mafia second, or Protagonist first, even though the other games have always felt Mafia first, Protagonist second. So, that was my problem with it. Back to Infinite Warfare. Honestly, if I want to play a game like this, I would just play Advanced Warfare. I don't see much of a reason to play this now. Again, unless you're into the story, but there's not too much of a story to exactly, discuss here. It's very straightforward, very, I suppose, generic, because again, it's just US versus, the Earth versus Mars, essentially, which, you know, albeit is fine, because I'm not fine with straightforward stories. As you can see with Black Ops 3, you can see again why I'm against that. Its story was just, I don't know, it is what it is. But yeah, I'd much rather play, if I'm looking for a shooter where I don't have to think much about, but has sort of gameplay mechanics where there aren't just boots on the ground, I'd prefer Advanced Warfare. Because again, Black Ops 3 is just weird, Infinite Warfare is boring, and albeit Advanced Warfare isn't exactly memorable itself, I feel it's better than the other two. Yeah, in conclusion, I feel it's better than the other two, and I'll just have a better time playing that. Now, as of recording this segment, I'm still playing through World at War currently, but I'm not gonna count this against it. This is literally my own personal fault. So when I bought the game, the box arrived, the disc came, worked, and everything was fine. But my disk drive is so bad, it's so crappy, that whenever I try to install a game through it, it always gets stuck. It usually gets stuck on, if it's not installed through Steam, it's usually installed through, if it's installed through its own install file, it will be stuck on updating component registration, because the disk drive just can't process beyond that. So what I had to do was actually go to the Pirate Bay, find another ISO for it, and run the install file off that. And that worked like a charm and everything. But the funny thing is that when I boot up the game, it actually said I need to insert a disk drive, even though the ISO was already in it. So I put in my physical disk, worked, everything's fine, the game's booted up and running, got all my settings tweaked and whatnot. And, yeah, for those of you who don't know, this is before Call of Duty games were put on Steam, I believe. I think it was going to be like a year or so before, but the disc version of Modern Warfare 2 connects through Steam. But Call of Duty World at War and Below all have their own individual install files, because yeah, I believe they weren't on Steam at the time. So yeah, even though you could buy them on Steam, if you have them physically, it's going to be its own sort of separate thing. But anyways, the game works like a charm. Yeah, booted up, worked fine. It works fine. And I actually installed Reshade on it. And originally, since I felt the graphics were similar to Black Ops's, I actually used Black Ops preset. But the cool thing is that you can add MXAO. And MXAO is a sort of shadow technique that adds more shadows to the game on physical objects, and gives the game a much more realistic look, I feel. And I couldn't do this with Black Ops or the other COD games I used Reshade on. But this is all mainly for another video, where I do plan on making a Reshade video for Call of Duty. But yeah, the point is, this thing works. I'm not gonna hold this little clip against it. I just thought that was a little funny thing to add. So, I just completed Call of Duty World at War, and thus completes this entire video. This is the last Call of Duty game I was going to take a look at. I want to take a look at Modern Warfare, but I don't have the original game. I only have Modern Warfare Remastered, which still has bugs on PC that actually make it unplayable to the point where you can't even boot it up. So I'm going to have to skip over that one. But let's talk about World at War. Since the game was made in 2008, there's not much that can really be said about it that hasn't been said already. But I will say, I guess there are a few things I do have to say, but it's all subjective. So first of all, this is my favorite Call of Duty. This is my favorite Call of Duty of all time, and was actually the second mainline Call of Duty I played. I played Call of Duty 3 beforehand on the PS2, and that is a mainline game, but the games I played before that were Big Red 1 and Finest Hour, which were sort of the side games, as opposed to actual Call of Duty 2 and actual Call of Duty 1, because Finest Hour was sort of like the console counterpart to Call of Duty 1, as Call of Duty 1 was very intensive, and I don't think it could be played on the current consoles. And which is why they didn't make an Xbox version of it until the 360 came out. So, yeah, I played Call of Duty 3 beforehand, and that was it. I didn't even know there was such a thing as mainline Call of Duty games. I just thought that was it. Those were the games, and whatever's next in the series is whatever's next. But no, they actually had PC and main counterparts. So World at War was the next mainline game I played, and essentially acted as an introduction, because I didn't see Call of Duty 3 as a mainline game. Again, the term mainline wasn't even a thing. So it sort of acted as a introduction as to how the rest of the series would sort of play out in a way, but it also marks the end of an era, the end of realistic campaigns, and more so movie-esque campaigns began after that with Modern Warfare 2. And I talked about all that in the Modern Warfare 2 section of this video, so I'm not going to go over that again. But that was sort of an end of an era, and also not to mention the end of the World War II era, as World War II games were dying out by then. The series, we just got too many of them. And nowadays it's like the opposite. Now we need more World War II games because people are sick of modern games and futuristic. Maybe not modern games, but they're sick of futuristic games. Yeah, the campaign itself, I love to death. Of course, you also have zombies, which back then was an actual part of the campaign, which is literally the final level. And of course, you have multiplayer. But to talk about the main campaign itself, I loved every single aspect of it. The fact that showed the war across 4 different countries, 4 different, I guess you'd say nations, not really countries, but nations. You had the Americans against the Japanese, and of course the Russians against the Germans. And there was a PS2 version of World at War, which actually showed the, which actually had a British campaign in it, and also had a campaign where it was the Americans, but also fighting the Germans. They didn't include that in this one. And World at War Final Front, oddly enough, was a PS2 exclusive. I think it was also a prequel. They never ported it to PC or modern consoles, which is, I really want to try it out, but due to it being a PS2 exclusive, its accessibility is very limited, I would say. It's not really the easiest game to get a hold of. But, yeah, the campaign, I just love it to death. It's dark, it's gritty, it's bold, it's realistic, and just everything about it I just love. The characters were great, the shooting was great, and oddly enough, even if it's just another World War II game, its shooting made it feel like it was different. It made it feel different enough to where it didn't feel boring to me. It didn't feel like every other Call of Duty game that was made beforehand, excluding Modern Warfare, of course. Now, this was the sort of this campaign is what we initially expected from Call of Duty World War II. Did they do that? No, they didn't. The campaign in World War II was very dumbed down and very PG-13-esque. And while that's fine and all, the problem with that is that the Call of Duty World War II's campaign isn't bad, it's just alright. My main problem with it is that they did it better. The games before Modern Warfare all are sort of PG-13-esque campaigns. They sort of feel like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I feel those games are all better and much more fun than Call of Duty World War II. I've played those campaigns so many times, and I've only played Call of Duty World War II campaigns once. Call of Duty 2, I loved because the campaign, the shooting again felt fun, but you can also mod it as well, which gives it even more replayability. Call of Duty 3, and also it's a fun game, but there's never a PC port for it, so you can never it's kind of hard to play that because the only decent ways to play it are through PS2 emulation and Wii emulation, and even then, it still doesn't work quite right. Xbox 360 emulation, I guess, is a thing. It's actually it's pretty well developed. If you're using an app like Xenia, NeoVar PS3, which is PS3 emulation, those are really well developed, but they probably still won't run Call of Duty 3, as well as something like the Wii did. As in terms of emulation, of course, it'd be easier for the thing to run on the Wii or on Dolphin than it would be to run on RPCS3, and even then, it still doesn't run right on Dolphin. So it's hard to go back to the game since it doesn't have a PC port. But back to World at War. What was I saying? Yeah, no, the older games just did it better. And if you want to play a PG-13 Call of Duty and you want to get into sort of boldness of World at War, go play the older ones. I think you'll have a much better time with them than you would with World War II. So, I honestly have to congratulate Activision for this game, because this came out in a time, of course, where we started seeing too many World War II games. And the reaction that Modern Warfare gained just showed that there needs to be a change within the genre. There needs to be a shift over to a different time period. And Modern Warfare, again, just proved that immensely. So, they realized that if they do want to make another World War II game, they would have to get everything right. If World at War was any less bold and gritty than it currently is, or currently was, then it would have flopped probably, because it would have just been seen as another PG-13 World War II game. It would have been seen as another Call of Duty 3. But they went all out with this one. And they knew if they got it right, if they did everything right, they would have been able to make one last World War II game, but that would have been it. They could not have made another game after that. So that's why they set the bar so high with this one, is because they're out of options. They, again, either make they could have just made another modern game, but it's not likely that Call of Duty would release 2 game series in a row, as in Black Ops and the Black Ops next year. There's usually another game in between if they ever planned on doing that. So, yeah, they realized they would have to make this one as bold and gritty as possible. It would have to triumph over all the other games that came before it, and I feel it did. It did that very well, and it just proved that how dedicated they were to making one last World War II game. This is sort of a final goodbye to the genre until the future, and that future came, and we all know what happened. But yeah, this was the final shot, and I think they couldn't have pulled it off better. And that's why I congratulate them so much with this game, because it just feels so well put together. It feels like it takes everything from the previous games and puts them in one final cannon, just shoots it, and they hit the target directly. That's why people, I think, will come back to this game over the other World War II games in the Call of Duty series, because this one just feels so unique. It feels so well done. Because Activision knew what they were doing. They knew what they were trying to accomplish, and they knew what their main goal was. The problem with World War II is that they just thought that with Call of Duty World War II, they just thought that if it's a World War II game, it's going to automatically be good. But no, that's not the case. Those games, sure, you can compare games like Call of Duty 2 and Call of Duty 3 to World War II, but you gotta keep in mind those games also had passion behind them. World War II came at a time where there was little passion dumped into the Call of Duty series. They were mostly just making the games because they had to, not because they actually wanted to, and that's a big difference. I think that trend of the no passion behind these games started around Ghost, where they just followed this sort of preset template, and a template that wasn't really that good to begin with, was alright to begin with, and could have been fixed with passion. It would have been, the template they followed was an alright template, but if they put passion behind their games, they could have made those games good, but there was no passion. So the games just came out as alright, or worse. And that's what Call of Duty World War II sort of fell to. It was a victim of that sort of passionless development cycle, and hence why it just became the way it did. And they could have really accomplished something, but they didn't. So, if you're thinking of checking out the old Call of Duty games, this one is a genuine, I would recommend this one, easily. If you've either played it a long time ago and you want to look back at it, definitely do it. If you've never played it before, definitely check it out. It's a fun game. It's just really well put together. And it just shows that the amount of passion behind this game, if they had that passion with the other games, they could have turned out alright. Other games as in, Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. And games like Black Ops 4 and even World War II for that matter. If they had that same passion, they could have turned out alright. But they didn't. So yeah, definitely, please check this one out. It still is really fun, really good to play today. So that pretty much wraps up this video. This video took about, I think, a month to make. I think I started maybe about like a month and a half, because I think I started in about late January with Black Ops 1 and sort of moved along from there, and I've just kept playing game after game after game. And Jesus, it's been a hell of a journey. And it's nice to end off on a good note with World at War. If anything, this video just shows I'm a sucker for linear games now, because nowadays I have much less time on my hands compared to a year ago, where I had more time on my hands, because with school now, I'm now involved with things like animation, as you can see with the video I last posted, or I don't know if it's the last video I posted, but as of now I only have one animation video up, which is the My Name's Not Shane Kid video. And even if something's as bare bones, even if the project I'm working on is something as small and bare bones as that, it still takes a lot of time to get through. It still takes time out of my day, and not to mention that's not even. I work on small projects, but I also have bigger, other more giant projects I'm working on as well, and those are in the realms of 2D animation, and those also take time. They take a lot of time, so to try and get through this big open world expansive game in a time like now, it can be difficult because of time. You know, those games they take hours to complete. I think Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'm trying to get through, is like 30 hours, and Valhalla, I think, I'm not sure how many hours Valhalla is. I think it's also 30. I don't really know, but those games are these big expansive open worlds, and they take you across their worlds, and they just take a lot of time to get through. And since my schedule's become really compact these days, it's hard to get through these games. Not to mention, I'm of course also doing YouTube stuff. You know, this whole entire Call of Duty series, this sort of playthrough, is all done. I want to go back and play the games myself, but they also do sort of add on to YouTube, and essentially mean, hey, I have to play these games in order to get this video out. So yeah, if this is linear games, it's too bad, because I feel like the genre is sort of disappearing a bit, and they're not as common as they once were. Linear games now are becoming open worlds, with games like Halo Infinite. Although I feel Halo Infinite, if its progression is fast enough, then it might not take as long as something like Horizon Zero Dawn, because a lot of these open world games also, progression is sometimes, of course, it isn't constant, but even if it is, it might not be exactly at the pace that you want it to be. Because open world games, again, you have this world you have to travel through, you have side quests, you have other things happening on the map. There's things that go on. And if you look at a game like Quantum Break and Alan Wake, those two games are both very good linear games. They're linear, but they still tell really good stories. Really emotional and just good stories. And that's why I love them so much, because you're always progressing. They're linear, so it's easier to get through them if you have less time on your hands, but they also tell stories that feel like something like they feel like open world-esque stories. That's why I love the games from the Remedy Games series. Now, Control was a little different. You were more so, it was like open world-ish, but you were traveling around in a linear way. For those of you who don't know, Control, you're not really progressing through room to room, or you're not really progressing through a linear pathway. You are kind of, but the whole game takes place in this big building, and you're free to roam around the building as much as you want. You're allowed to take your own, well, not necessarily, but there's certain things that go on in this building, and you have to get there. And the whole, it's like a miniature open world game. It's hard to explain it, but the point is, the progression in Control is not the same as Quantum Break or Alan Wake if you're used to those games. I'm not holding that against Control, but I went into it expecting a game like that. Was that what I was given? No. Again, I'm not holding against that, but if you're expecting something like Alan Wake or Quantum Break, and in terms of progression style, it's not really going to be exactly the same. Stories are similar amongst each other. But yeah, nowadays I have less time on my hands, so it's harder to get through an open world game, and that's why I'm going back and playing more linear ones, like Darksiders. I've just gone into that series, and I'm trying to get through that, and so far I've been enjoying it. But a game like Darksiders, and a game like Destiny as well, Destiny 2 I'm also playing a bit more now. Again, those games are all linear, so they're easier to get through, and they're just easier. The progression is constant, you know. They're not these big open expansive worlds that you have to explore, which is nothing wrong with those. But again, if you're trying to experience a game and you don't have the biggest amount of time on your hands through the day, linear games are much easier to get through than big open world games. Unless the progression in those games is very fluid and very fast. Like in Far Cry, I feel like the progression in those games is actually fluid. It's fast and almost is like a linear game in a way, in a sort of special little way, which is why I'm excited for games like Far Cry 6, and I feel like if anything, Halo Infinite would also have the same appeal. Yeah, that's really my take on linear games. So what games out of this list would I recommend? I'd pretty much recommend everything except Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. And I do recommend Advanced Warfare, because even if it does have the exo movement and all that you might be sick of, I honestly found it fun, considering the fact that I rarely played, again, when I played Advanced Warfare, I was more used to games that are more boots on the ground and whatnot. Games like, of course, Black Ops 2 and the World War II shooters. So when I played Advanced Warfare, it felt oddly refreshing in a sort of way. So I would recommend that, but the problem with that is that Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, they just felt like Advanced Warfare 2.0. Well, actually, more so Infinite Warfare. Black Ops 3, again, its campaign felt very weird and very just weird. So I don't even want to get into that. Infinite Warfare felt like a mediocre version of Advanced Warfare, and that's why I didn't really like it as much. And if I were to play one of those games again, I would go back to Advanced Warfare and skip over Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare. So, yeah, again, I recommend everything except Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 3, because if you're gonna play Infinite Warfare, I'd rather just play. If I was to play Infinite Warfare again, I'd rather just play Advanced Warfare again. Black Ops 3, I would just like to avoid entirely. So that's my take on those games. If I were to give all of these games one solid piece of credit that they can all share, is that for the time, they looked pretty good. The graphics, again, this is comparing to the graphics of their time period. For 2008, Advanced Warfare was, World at War was a pretty good looking game for 2008. And that can be said, I think, across the board for all the other games, is that the graphics in a Call of Duty game, with the amount of money they're putting in, they're always going to be on par with the current year, if not better, but they're never going to be below that. And with the exception of Black Ops 3, I felt like its textures look kind of muddy-ish. I felt like they could use some work. But aside from that, everything else looked really good for its time period. Of course, some of the graphics on these games are dated nowadays, but back then, they were always at least on par or a little bit better than what you would see from that year. So I have to give credit amongst all that. I think it's just a product of the amount of money they put into these games. So no matter what, at the end of the day, they're always going to look, again, on par. No matter how good or bad the game is, it's going to look decent enough and require some decent computing power to play. Honestly, it's looking back on all these games, it's nice to see Call of Duty sort of make an attempt to bring itself out of this sort of era, this bad era that's been in. By that, I'm referring to Ghost to Black Ops 4. Now, that was the jump. Ghost marked the jump from the series, when the series jumped to the Xbox, from the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. And it's a shame to think that most of the Call of Duty games on the One received a general negative reception. Of course, PS3 and PS4 as well. But most of the games in that era, again, received a pretty negative reception. And sure, you may have a few people who like them, but I think the majority of the COD players would rather skip over that era entirely. And it's just nice to see it sort of make an attempt to bring it out of that series, or sort of out of that era. And you may have your opinions on Modern Warfare. I've heard a lot of different things about it, but I think it's pretty easy to argue that Modern Warfare is an attempt to bring it back to the quote-unquote golden age that Call of Duty was once in, as in Modern Warfare to Black Ops 2. Same thing with Black Ops Cold War. I think this is a pretty decent attempt to try and bring it back to that once golden period that a lot of people, really a lot of people grew up with that sort of period. Now again, this could all flip within a switch, because again, this year's Call of Duty could be anything. It could be another futuristic game, it could be a World War II game, it could be a Vietnam game. Who knows? It could take place in any year, any decade. And it could be a World War II game, but for all we know, it could end up like another Call of Duty World War II. So, yeah, it's, again, the series is very, not really, in terms of, I'm trying to look for, I think it's stable. The series isn't exactly the most stable when it comes to keeping certain consistencies up, again, as we've seen with the last decade or so. But as of now, I have high hopes that it will sort of keep up this attempt to get back to that golden era. So as my last and final wrap up, talk about the video as a whole. Again, this whole video is highly subjective. These are all opinions. These aren't actual ratings of these games. I wasn't going in depth on each campaign. I was just talking about the thing as a whole, as a quick little discussion. Again, this whole thing is highly subjective, so you may or may not like these games. You may hate the games I liked, you may like the games I hated. So, with that said, all my opinions I just listed and talked about are all up for debate, you know? There's nothing that makes them true, they're just opinions. And I like to think some of them are more agreeable than others. I feel like there's some opinions that people might agree with and some people might not. But that's mainly what this video is about. It's not meant to be a review or anything. It's not meant to sort of, what's the word? It's not meant to be taken as an official review, because if I were to actually officially review these games, I'd have to put a lot more effort into actually reviewing these games, and if I were reviewing these games, they would all have their own each individual videos, as opposed to this one giant one. And yeah, if anything, it's just easier to make these sort of thought videos as opposed to in reviewing them, because I'm not good with reviews. I do not know how to find flaws with the campaign. You know, I'm one of those guys who only sees the flaws in a game after they're pointed out to me. If I just run through a game, I'm not going to notice its flaws. I'm going to think it's pretty alright, unless they're very apparent. Essentially, what I'm saying is I'm the average game player. I don't look at games to I have a bad eye when it comes to catching flaws in the campaign. Like in Advanced Warfare, its first bit of dialogue, where Mitchell and his, what was his friend? I don't remember what his friend's name is, but that first piece of dialogue, if were they're talking about why they joined the army, if you really think about it, why would they be having that conversation now? I would not be able to catch something like that. I only knew that that was really a flaw because I saw Hackman's video on it, and he actually pointed that out. And I thought, huh, he's got a point. So yeah, again, these opinions are meant to be debated, they're meant to be talked about, and they're just opinions, they don't mean anything. If you don't agree with me, you don't agree with me. If you agree with me, you agree with me. But, again, that wraps this up. It's been a long time, and hopefully you stuck around through the entire video. But, yeah, this took me, I think, about a month and a half to make, which isn't the most amount of time, but it's longer than I thought I would. It's more time than I thought I would be spending on this topic.